Hi guys, welcome back to OrmsTV, and today we have a very special review for you on the brand new Canon RF 70-200 f4.
Yeah, so in addition to doing a little review on this 70-200 f4, you'll see that we also have a EF 70-200 2.8 on a 5D body over here. And we're actually going to compare these two lenses side by side. And I know what you're thinking, that is not an actual direct comparison. There is an RF 70-200 2.8 available, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and the biggest reason is we have a lot of clients transitioning now from DSLR over to the new mirrorless system.
Yeah, and if you do that transition and you actually think about what lenses you're going to get, the question becomes, when you move over to an R5 or an R6, something like that, is it worth it spending the money and going for the RF 70-200 2.8?
Yeah.
Or do you bring along your EF 70-200 2.8 and use the adapter? Or is it actually worth it to consider the 70-200 f4 and gain advantage of a much smaller size and a much more attractive price point? And that's what we're going to have a look at today. So first off, let's just do a quick spec rundown. And for me, the most impressive spec is the fact that this RF 70-200 f4 lens only weighs 695 grams.
Yeah, this is so light, and as you can see, the lens is so tiny.
It is incredibly compact for a 70-200, and it's an L series lens.
Yeah, so for this spec, great from Canon that they made it so small. Another great feature on this is the stabilization. This is 5 stops, and when you hit it up with the R6 and the R5, you're getting 7.5 stops of stabilization. Now, quite impressive with this lens, even though it is the f4, they still give you 3 stabilized modes, which is normally you only see that on the 2.8s.
Yeah, very true. So in addition to that, this lens also has 4 ultra low dispersion elements, fluorine coating and air sphere coating, and all of that is just to help in Canon's color transmission, light gathering, and of course to eliminate as much chromatic and panchromatic aberration as is humanly possible in these lenses.
Now you can obviously see this is L series, as the white coating on here. Now that enables you to get the best autofocus motor. That'll be the USM and STM. It is of course then also weather sealed. And new to the RF system is these control rings. So you can set it to ISO, aperture, or any custom function in the body.
So to test these lenses out, we took a little cruise around Chapman's Peak Drive here in Cape Town. Obviously gorgeous views, like some of the best in the world. Yeah. And I'm gonna kick it over to you because you were the first person to mention it actually this morning.
Yeah.
The biggest difference between these two lenses.
And it is kind of obvious. I mean, I was shooting mostly with the 5D in the beginning.
Yeah.
When you handed me the R5 with the f4 70-200, the first thing I noticed was there was a huge weight difference. Maybe on the body as well, but it was mostly on the lens side of things. So control and handling, this is a winner. This is so nice to hold, and it is so light.
Absolutely. I mean, even holding this unit right here, yeah, the body is heavy. I mean, it's a 5D, it's going to be a heavy body, but it's so front heavy due to this lens on here. And if you compare the two, 695 grams on that, 1.48 kilograms on this lens.
So that's double.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a massive difference in size and weight. And we've all become so accustomed to these mirrorless cameras. And yeah, they are big. I mean, the R5 is not a small camera. It's big, it's chunky, it gives you a nice grip, but this has just become so unwieldy by comparison. And ooh, that is definitely first point to the f4.
Okay, so next up we're going to talk about the big thing. Image quality and sharpness. Now, both of these are L series lenses, so we are kind of expecting the best out of them.
Yeah, and first off, just touch on the autofocus performance, you know, between these two lenses. Now, yes, we know that one sits on an all-new platform. It is on the R5, so yes, you are going to get faster autofocus.
Much faster, that is.
Much faster, correct. But at the same time, this is also an all-new generation of lens technology. And we know that putting this unit with the RF adapter onto the R5 body is not going to give you quite the same autofocus speed and accuracy as what you're going to get by having a native RF lens onto one of these mirrorless bodies. And I think that is something that's important to remember here. And when you do consider moving over, whether it's worth bringing your old lenses along, to get that absolute ultimate autofocus performance, it might just be worth, just for that, to go for an RF lens system.
Yeah, and we can also talk about the minimum focus distance. I mean, that is something we saw instantly when we were shooting close up.
Yeah.
This guy can do 60 centimeters close up. So that's great if you do want to shoot some flower walking around.
Absolutely.
This one is only 1.2.
Yeah, that's a big difference as well.
Yeah.
It's a massive, massive gap. And it really limited us in some of the close-up shots we were trying to take, where we wanted to show a bit more sharpness, a bit more clarity, and to get that idea of how aggressive the bokeh is in the background. Being able to focus so much closer does kind of tend to a bit of exaggeration in some of those elements, and it definitely played to the strengths of this lens.
So carrying on the topic of image quality, let's talk about sharpness between these two. And in my opinion, these are very close.
They are incredibly close, and I know that some of that is due to the fact that this is a native f4 lens, so it appears sharper because more of your frame is in focus.
Yeah.
And at f2.8, you know, that is simply not the case. But if you compare simply like for like sharpness with the images that we're putting up on the screen now, they are so incredibly close. And I think that's a big bonus for the f4 lens.
Yeah, and that's going to help you, especially because of the price tag. It is a little bit cheaper as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a little bit cheaper than the older 7200 EF mount system, and it's significantly more affordable than the RF 7200 2.8. And that really makes a very good case for this little lens. Getting that sharpness, getting the size, yeah. So other things that are virtually identical between these two lenses is the color rendition. And I mean, this is what we come to expect. You know, it's Canon L series lens technology, it's Canon's color science. You'll see from the images that we're putting up that the color rendition between these two lenses are virtually identical. There is nothing to call there. They're nice and vibrant, they're punchy, they are exactly what you expect from Canon. The other thing is how well these lenses control aberration within the frame. And if you look at them, they are spot on perfect. Specifically looking at something like your traditional chromatic aberration, when you're rolling from a very dark matter within your frame into a very light matter, you don't get any of that purple fringing that you tend to see in some lower end lenses. Truly spot on. The f4 does it phenomenally. We know that the 2.8 is perfect in that sense. So really, really close between these two lenses.
Now jumping to stabilization, as we mentioned, it is 5 stops in the lens. But thanks to mirrorless technology in Canon, when you put it to the R5 and the R6, you gain 7.5 stops, which is huge. So if you're shooting in low light due to the f4 in the lens, you can still get a stable shot at slower shutter speeds. And that is, again, a nice bonus on the RF 7200 f4.
Absolutely.
Bokeh, blurry background, depth of field, whatever you want to call it. The f4 versus 2.8 is going to be a big deciding factor when you compare these two lenses. And from my opinion, they are very close.
They are very close. But I also do want to say, in my opinion, as a traditionalist, the bokeh that you get from the 2.8 is a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. It is a bit more circular in some elements, and oh, I hate this term, but it's creamier.
Yeah, it is creamier.
Yeah, it is. At the same time though, that f4 does a phenomenal job of delivering that shallow depth of field, background and foreground separation. It's really, really good for an f4.
There was definitely a couple of shots when I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's f4.
Yeah.
Comparing and looking at an f2.8, it was damn close.
It was, and I don't know if that's some trickery that's employed in the mirrorless system there, because we have actually seen similar results shooting at much higher f-stops. If you take it to like a review that we did of the R6, when we were shooting some bird photography, and there we were shooting at massively high f-stops, f17 over 1000mm lenses, and again, you had pleasingly soft backgrounds. So I don't know if it has to do with the flange distance or the sensor technology that's employed in these, but it brings an f4 so close to a 2.8 that you really struggle to justify another stop down.
But at the end of the day, it'll never be at 2.8.
It won't be, but man, it's close.
All right, so in conclusion, you've heard a lot of positives about this lens, but let's talk about maybe one negative, and that is going to be the build quality. Even though it is L series, it is weather sealed, it does feel a little bit cheaper versus this tank.
Yeah, I mean, like this thing feels like it was built for military application. I mean,
Yeah.
like I feel like I could throw this thing down here and pick it up and it would be absolutely perfect. It is indestructible and we know it. That feels a little bit, I don't want to say plasticky because I know it's not, but it doesn't feel as robust as this lens right here.
Yes. But overall, when we compare all the negatives and the positives, what is your feeling?
For me, looking at that lens in isolation, I think it is incredible. It is the best 70-200 f4 lens that I have ever used.
I would agree on that, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it kicks sand in the face of any of the EF 70-200 f4 lenses. And I would even go as far as to say that it beats out any competitor 70-200 f4 lens. The sharpness is on point, the speed of focus is there. You get the beautiful bokeh that you don't even expect from an f4 lens. It really delivers on all fronts, and it's tiny.
It is so light and small, yeah.
Yeah, so looking at just that lens, 100% worth the money if you are looking for a 70-200 f4.
Now let's talk about maybe the main reason why a lot of people clicked on this video, and that is the big comparison. You own a lot of Canon equipment and you are considering switching over to mirrorless. Which 70-200 are you gonna keep or buy?
Yeah, so are you keeping this unit? Are you letting it go? I would have to say that if I was moving from literally a setup like this, a 5D 70-200 2.8, and I'm considering going R5 or R6, and I need to have a 70-200 with me, this 70-200 is going straight onto the second-hand market.
That is exactly what I would say as well.
Yeah.
The lightness and performance of this lens is definitely there. Even though it is f4, it is phenomenal for f4.
It is so close to this unit.
Yes.
It is so incredibly close that I would struggle to justify taking this older technology set over onto a new mirrorless body. I would honestly put this onto the second-hand market. Knew this is still quite a bit pricier than what this f4 is. Go onto the second-hand market, sell this lens, and cover a big chunk of the cost of going for the 70-200 f4.
So I think approval, it's ready to go mirrorless, guys.
Absolutely.
So that is our review on the Canon RF 70-200 f4. Let us know in the comments below if you guys are ready for the mirrorless switch.
Yeah, and if you guys enjoy the type of content that we put out, please consider subscribing to our channel. We love doing this type of review and comparison. And now, in the last couple of weeks, a ton of new gear has dropped from Fuji, from Sony, pretty much everybody diving in and releasing new equipment. And we will be bringing you reviews on all of it, so stay tuned for that. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.